Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Toxcast. Coming back once again, I've got Garry Brents, the mastermind behind Memorrhage, behind Mage, and a litany of the other projects. How are you doing today, Garry?
Doing well, doing well. First of all, thank you for having me on again. I'm excited to be here again with you guys, you and your audience. Doing well, yeah. Excited about this new Memorrhage album that's finally out there for people to hear and check out.
Absolutely not a problem having you back. So we can just get right into that. The new Memorrhage album, Anyo, just came out on the 16th, I believe.
Mhm.
Has the response to it so far been to your liking?
Yeah, definitely so far. Just kind of a variety of I guess reactions or responses I've gotten. Maybe kind of a good mix. Kind of like the last time. Just like people kind of around our age, like grew up with new metal and then moved on to more like extreme forms of metal. I think they appreciate it a little more just because that's my experience going into
Yes.
making this project, an album. So I've heard more from people around our age, I guess. But then some of the younger new metal fans have definitely responded to it. Not as much, but here and there. And then everywhere in between, just like people who are kind of into new metal, but more on a cursory level. They're more into extreme metal. They're like they found some things in it that they like and can grab onto. So it's been a nice mixed bag, but in a positive way.
I think your extreme leanings in the way you make Memorrhage almost makes it a reverse gateway.
Mm,
Like
yeah,
instead of like your Link or Korn being a gateway band into heavier music or
right.
Slipknot, you're being the opposite, and your extreme new metal is a gateway to people to go back to new metal a little bit because they all of a
Yeah,
sudden they remember they're like, oh, you know what, I like the groove, I like the little bounce.
right.
um
That's actually fantastic perspective, point of view of seeing it. And I think that definitely is what was on my mind going into the project, and especially making a follow-up album is to lean into that. So yeah, it is definitely sort of a reverse gateway of metal spectrum. Yeah.
I think there's also the aid of, while I wouldn't really put you into that subcategory, I
Mm,
think the basically the coming up of the whole new metalcore thing with
yeah.
that having a little bit more of an edge. Like I
Hmm.
think that like now people who listen to new metal but want the more like aggressive side to it can
Hmm.
take a band like Memorrhage and be like, oh no, I really like that, and all
Yeah.
the weird synthy stuff that you do that they wouldn't normally hear in that sort of style of music.
That's a great point. Yeah. And thank you. Yeah. I agree that like this movement of like the kind of new metalcore movement has sort of become like a bridge for sure. I at least from what I've seen, a lot of the audience for like new metalcore, definitely more on the like younger side, like people in their 20s, or younger, or even like early 30s, who like kind of grew up more with metalcore, but not necessarily new metal's peak or height of you know stardom or fandom. So like they kind of grew more with metalcore and then maybe a little bit of new metal. So like the current wave of I guess this rise of like new metalcore is like kind of hitting that generation more so. At least from what I've seen. So it's interesting, yeah, to where Memorrhage can fit in, kind of plugging all across the board. At least like I hope so.
You're almost chameleon-esque in the way
Oh
you
yeah,
can fit into the, we're new metal, we're industrial metal, we're kind of death metal at times, we're
right.
new metalcore. Yeah, you can tap all those markets, and that's a good thing. it's a good problem to have.
Thanks. Yeah. And that's sort of kind of been my good problem, where I just like a lot of stuff, and at any given moment, a song might dance into some other style that the previous song had no traces of, and then maybe call back more of whatever that change was, maybe later on in the album, or the next song, or even maybe whatever comes next on whatever album would come next in the
Yeah.
future. But yeah, definitely chameleon-esque has been my bag, and it's fun because just like a variety of stuff to make.
Yeah. No, you bring all those noises together. So you near immediately sold out of all the CDs you made copies of. You've sold out of the cassettes as well,
Mhm.
I believe. The blue ones. Did you sell out of the diamond ones as well?
Yes, both of those. The
Eh,
the diamonds were like an ultra limited number, so I definitely knew those would go fast. But I was pretty surprised to see the blue ones go fast too. But
Did
it's
the
cool.
did the second set of blue CDs go too?
They did.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what because I
yeah.
remember I popped on Twitter and I saw you had 7 left, and I was like, there were people in my Discord who were like mad that they couldn't get one, like because I told them
Oh,
I was like, it's on sale now, go get it,
yeah.
and but yeah, everybody saw the message in the morning like it's gone now. I'm like, I told you to go get it.
Sorry. With that said, just by seeing a little bit more demand than I initially thought there might be, I'm definitely going to make a third CD run, especially with the general consensus that CDs are definitely the new metal physical format.
Yeah,
So I want to make a little more of a run there to support the CD diehard fans.
yeah, with how many collectors there are in this
Oh yeah.
genre, yeah,
Hmm.
no. Um, is there somewhere in the back of your mind, because I know there's still people who want the first album,
Hmm.
is there a thought somewhere of maybe I at some point down the line reissue them both together, or
Ooh, that's interesting. Yes, I could see that. And actually, very much related to that, I did have some artwork made in the interim between the first and this new one
Mhm.
that was supposed to be like a deluxe version of the Memorrhage self-titled, and it was that deluxe art was done by the cover artist for Anyo. So there's already kind of a aesthetic tie in there already to make a combined reissue at some point, and I would definitely use that artwork. Probably still use the old one too, like maybe inside the booklet, as for people to, like, if they want to switch it on display, use the old one on the front of the case, and then or use the new one.
Get one of those the big cardboard outside boxes that puts the CDs inside of them.
Oh man, those were actually really cool.
I
Yeah,
we used
that's an idea.
I had a friend who had a Judas Priest one, and it had like 6 CDs in it.
Oh man, that's awesome.
And they all and like if you lined them all up, they made like a design on the side. I think he had an Iron
Oh,
Maiden one that did that too.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Um,
My dad had one of those, or that. Yeah, man, that's actually a really good idea.
you gotta you gotta put out 10 albums, and they
10.
gotta
Yep.
all have specific designs.
A big panorama thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So actually, on the topic of that, the style of the artwork. Did you have any say in what you wanted it to look like that you had the person you just mentioned make? Uh,
Yeah. Um, Definitely. I kind of gave them more liberties than the artist of the first album. Mordred is the name of the artist on this new one.
okay.
And they kind of just like have their own, like, 3D computer graphics style. I almost want to say like PS1 style, but not quite. Like almost like PC game style, I guess. That just is, it kind of just pops out. And I definitely told them we got to have a mech on here because I wanted a sort of physical, almost intimidating progression from the robotic character on the first cover, and then from that to like a bigger centerpiece, which is the mech on the new one. And it's kind of also hard to see, but the robot from the first cover is piloting this mech. It's really, really hard to see. You have to kind of,
Oh,
look at a
I
high.
did not notice that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna look at it on my screen real quick, and it's pretty hard to see. He's kind of in a shadow on the side, on like the sort of like hanging out there. Almost looks kind of like Spider-Man or something, or like
Okay.
Spawn maybe. But yeah, it was definitely a subtle touch. But other than that, other than the prerequisite of having a mech, I just told them, do what you got to do and or interpret this how you want. I just want sort of the PC game PS1 ish style vibe, and they delivered. They showed me progress along the way, from like a crude sketch to, here's a little bit of color, what do you think? And I'd just be like, keep going, love it. Like, I didn't really have to give them much notes. I just said keep going, just show me updates, whenever you can. And they did. And then one day I got the finished one. And I did do some edits in terms of not the mech or the background, but the logo. I added that logo onto the final piece. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, no, as soon as I saw the artwork, the first things I thought of were Mech Warrior and Armored Core and stuff like that.
Yes. Yep.
Now this could be completely off the mark, but what I for something for some reason the cover of the first album, um I reminded of, I can't remember his name, the villain from Stranger Things, the main villain from Stranger Things.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Vector?
It is something with a V.
Vecna. I think it's
Okay,
Vecna.
that sounds right. Yeah.
But
Been a while
yeah,
since I thought about it.
how he's like trapped in like a web looking thing, and all his skin's like melted off and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like anytime I look at it, I don't know if that was ever remotely intended, but that's what I think of anytime I see it.
Interesting. It wasn't an intention, but kind of looking back at it now in retrospect, I could see that vibe for sure. And it's kind of supposed to have somewhat of a villainous nature to it, but not quite like, oh, this is an evil bad guy. It's more of like just like almost like a rogue, like lost, like no real compass, just floating through this dystopian future, entangled in a web of technology, cables and wires and stuff like that. But yeah,
Where Memorrhage was at that time.
at that time, yeah, finding its way.
So I've listened to the album several times over now, and I've seen a lot of comments saying that this is basically the diluted version of the first album, or basically you toned down the aggression,
Mm.
but I have to disagree with that to a point.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that you really turned down between Memorrhage and Anyo is the fact that the chaos is a bit more controlled.
Mm.
The aggression is still there. You have, however, turned up your influences like almost to like a 12 or a 13.
Mm-hmm.
Like the corn is more prominent, the Fear Factory is more prominent, the Godflesh bits are more prominent. There's more hip hop elements. The synths are a bit more clean. Like you can pull things apart easier instead of it being all abrasive all the time. Which was how I felt about the first album. Like it was good, but it was a lot of the time it was just punching you in the face. Whereas this one's a bit more welcoming in a way. Were those things that were intentional, or was this literally just a natural progression from where you wanted to take Memorrhage?
First of all, yeah, great thoughts and perspective on it, because I would say that's pretty much a nail on the head in terms of it being intentional. to kind of rein in the chaotic nature of the first one, still have some of that, carry over to Anyo, but definitely be more controlled, like you said. Little more refinement and a little clearer production in terms of picking things out, like you said, with like the synth elements. Not necessarily being forefront, as like a perfected lead instrument, but definitely cleaner. Um, but I would say, yeah, it was definitely an intent kind of thing on the back of my mind going into it, like pretty much with every song from start to finish, mostly. I was like, as I was going through the motions, like writing the songs, there was definitely some parts where like, this is like maybe a little bit too much like the first one. So I'd kind of change up some parts, clean things up a little bit, refine some production aspects, vocally, guitar wise, drum wise, synth wise, of course, and some of the other effects, like kind of the industrial type effects. So yeah, it was definitely an intent to go a bit more controlled while still retaining aggression.
I also wanted to comment on the fact that the clean vocals, they feel like they have a lot more confidence and strength behind them on this album compared to the few times they were used on the first album.
Mhm.
Like there's a like yeah, they feel like there's more uh almost more bass to them. Like yeah,
Oh
like
yeah,
more strength to them basically.
yeah.
Yeah, and they stand out like really well.
Thank you. That was a big component, I guess, of the production. Not just production, but performance. They kind of go both in tandem. For the performance and production of the clean vocals, definitely wanted them to feel more like, oh, whoa, this feels different than the first one. So I definitely wanted that difference to be apparent, not like a subtle thing. So yeah, I really wanted to refine those and like you said, give more strength to them in the mix, and performance wise, just more expression to them for sure.
Yeah, and that definitely comes across. And the production, just like the production of the first one, is lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice to hear a metal album of that nature, and just like the first album, that is like so clean,
Mhm.
but still so aggressive and heavy. Like it doesn't lose any of its ferocity by being nice and shiny.
Thanks. Yeah, and that's really kind of a tricky thing I feel to make that happen. I've definitely struggled with that or trying to achieve that in past projects, where I was just, it would frustrate me, and I would just, well, I'm just gonna go lean the other way where we're gonna go super raw or what have you. And I think with Memorrhage, it sort of ushered in like a light bulb moment, perhaps. And I still feel like I'm on this path of just constant refinement. Not only in performance but in the production for sure. Just making things a little bit cleaner, but still having that dirt, that edge, that aggressive, shine, I guess, to it to keep things exciting.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And it is, like, as you said, it is a fine line. It is hard. Like, how many bands do we like that we've seen try to go a little too clean and then
Mhm.
the power disappears?
It's lost. Yeah,
It's like,
it's unfortunate, but it
yeah,
does happen.
but some people do it. Some people pull it off perfectly. And
That's
yet
true.
some people flounder. So I wanted to fully go through the album with you.
Yeah,
Um, so I had little bits that I wrote about the songs, but I wanted you to go a little bit more in depth about them.
yeah.
So my first impressions of the first two opening tracks, which were Downstone and Infect,
Mhm.
um, I don't know if this was intentional, but those are the two songs that I feel sound the most like the first album.
Mhm.
And it almost feels as though you like there's a rollover of the first Memorrhage album into Anyo, and then it kind of bleeds away. Not
Hmm.
like not in a bad way. It's just
Yeah.
like it's like almost shedding its skin.
Yeah.
And so what how was the process of those two songs? Or if you want to go one by one, go for it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll kind of go both in tandem. Because I think basically what you said is another kind of nail on the head moment where it is going through a shedding of the skin with these first couple songs, and it was intentional. I'll say that I wrote both of these roughly a week before the first one even came out.
Oh, geez.
Not completely, but like pretty much like all the structure's done. Just hadn't recorded all the vocals yet, or all the little bits of electronic or industrial or noise elements and stuff like that. But the bones were there, so the structure was like, yeah, this is gonna follow the self-titled like almost immediately. Like if you play the first album, or now people can, but back then I was thinking, well, yeah, after they play the first album, play the second one, and these first couple tracks can feel like a sonic continuation of that journey. um Beyond that, there's moments of difference between these songs and the first one with layers of vocals like during the choruses. I think definitely a little more pronounced layering. um while the chorus vocals on like Downstone in particular, they're not like super clean, but they're like kind of that yell singing, and that
Mhm.
that was a pretty much brand new element that I introduced on Anyo compared to the first album. And I felt like having that on Downstone just during like these chorus moments was like, oh, there's a bit of a new thing happening, um that's starting to shed the skin a little bit. Yeah. And to a lesser extent a little bit on Infect as well. But yeah, the first two songs definitely are kind of a rollover for sure.
Yeah, like on the first album, you had a lot of the cleaner vocal moments reminded me of the occasional clean moments where in a Napalm Death song where
Hmm.
he's
Oh
not
yeah.
exactly singing, but
Right.
he's kind like it's I can't it's almost in the same vein, although not the same style as how Henry Rollins sings.
Oh yeah.
Um
Yeah.
but like, but yeah, and also kind of almost Burton Fear Factory esque, where
Hmm.
he's his vocals are very almost synthesized to a point, like they're affected
Right.
to such a degree.
Right.
But yeah, but they're more not raw, but they're more natural
Hmm.
here, while still having all of those layers and effects surrounding it. So there's more human coming through,
For sure. Yeah.
despite the the visualization of everything. Like
Right.
there is
The
more
the
human.
androids and robotic
Yeah,
themes. Yeah. Yeah.
they're
I
taking
guess a
over.
good word is biomechanical. That to kind of, yeah, the synthesization of flesh and machine. Yeah. Which is, definitely a Fear Factory callback. They definitely do that a lot. But yeah.
I'm gonna tangent for half a second. Do you
Yeah.
know the band Biomechanical?
I do actually. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. That's yeah.
they're wild.
They're cool. Yeah. Oh, you very underrated too.
Yeah, no one ever knows who they are. I used to listen to Empires of the Worlds pretty regularly, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This is like power metal Pantera. What is
It's
this?"
weird. Yeah, they were something. I felt like they could have gone places more than they did. But sometimes just bad luck happens. But they were very unique.
Yeah, no, they definitely stood out, and yeah, but some a lot of those bands, unfortunately, the really unique ones, if you
Hmm.
don't have the right label pushing you,
Hmm.
you're not gonna get anywhere.
Right. Unfortunate.
Yeah. All right. So from those two, we're gonna move into structural damage. Structural damage capacity
Hmm.
and crasher. Now
Yeah.
these are you can still feel touches of the first two songs, but the chaos has been peeled back. There's more melody present here. This is where these are the first two songs on the album where you start to feel the Korn elements start rising up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Now go tell me about these two.
Yeah. So kind of right off the bat, the Korn influence is definitely big, and of course, very intentional. Sort of, I guess the headspace I was going for is like as simple as you could say, like Korn meets like Fear Factory. The mid '90s Fear Factory sound. With some other touches as well, but though that mixture was like completely on my brain, especially on structural damage capacity with a lot of the syncopated stuff with the kicks and chugging guitar riffs and some of the vocal patterns as well. But really, when you start to get to these like weird guitar effects with like the flanger and stuff, they're definitely that Korn kind of apparent influence showing through. And I'm just a real sucker for those. So, I hope that the fans who love that aspect of Korn definitely appreciate it. So it's a big influence of mine. It didn't make as much of an influence on the first album as much as I wanted to. So it was sort of like a correction going into Anyo, and kind of ramping that up a bit with tracks 3 and 4 here was a intended goal. And I would say with Crasher, it was sort of a song that I kind of wrestled with for a while. I like the song a lot, but I was like, some of my, I guess, like playbacks of the album, just as like in my car, like pretending I'm just like a casual fan. I'm not in this band or in this project. I'm just listening to some heavy music. I felt like, man, I don't know if this track fits here. But obviously in the end, I made the choice to keep it on there and to keep it where it's at track 4. It's sort of because it kind of sort of feels like, okay, we've slowed things down a bit. We're definitely hedged more into that kind of groove bounce area, rather than like the kind of faster chaotic moments. So it sort of felt like, yeah, there should be a bit of a logical continuation, or not continuation, differentiation into like a slower moment on the album. So Crasher kind of begins that, and it takes some turns too throughout the song. There's a couple parts later on with some like weird Mudvayne-esque bass things going on, little weird vocal things too, which could kind of be like a bit of a Korn thing too when he does his kind of
the scat thing.
The scat thing a little bit, but I am saying words, but just texturally similar to his flavor of doing that.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
Yeah. So I kind of felt these two songs were a good chance to change things up a bit from the first two.
Those two are where I feel the album, like, that is the shift where you're like, oh, okay, this isn't the same. We're not getting Memorrhage just again. Like this is a different breed.
Yeah, going somewhere.
Which I guarantee you there are people out there who are like, why didn't I get Memorrhage again?
Right. And that I did think about that too, which I give a little bit of that, as we said, with the first two
songs.
Yeah, which some bands do that where their follow up to like a debut or what have you, they'll those first couple tracks are going to be pretty similar to the previous album, and then off to the races, we're going somewhere else. But
because you gotta try and hook as many as you can, but you gotta get the other people back
for sure.
So from here you took a shift, and I'm actually gonna jump around the track listing a tiny bit.
Sure, that's cool.
So Anywhere Else is the next one, and I'm gonna loop this in with First Level.
Sure.
As I feel these are the two most melodic numbers on the album that like threw me for a loop, and not in a bad way at all. The first time I heard him, I was like, oh, he's actually going for it. Okay, cool. Like you pulled the layers back. You're like, nah,
Mhm.
now we're gonna write. We're not writing a ballad, but we're gonna write a soft song,
Mhm.
or soft as Memorrhage can go at this point.
True.
Um, and yeah, so yeah. Anywhere else, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, yeah, he's fully embracing the melodies. Like,
Yes.
while and there's still some groove in there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and there's still some aggressive vocals here and there, but for
Mhm.
the most part, it's like 75% clean
Yeah.
on both songs, and
Yeah. Both of those.
it's really well done. The synths almost, I know it's not what you do, but it almost becomes slightly more orchestral in the way that it's like wrangled
Yeah.
in the songs. Like,
Yeah.
and it probably helps the fact that it's more melodic. It gives the synths and the keyboards a bit of a different accent than
Mhm.
they do when they're like clashing against the aggressive guitars.
Right.
Here they're given like new life. So tell me about those songs.
Yeah. It's cool that you kind of paired these two up because I totally agree that these two were they're the biggest differences from the first album for sure. And they kind of stand out on their own as like, whoa, like where is this project going now? And people can take it or leave it. If they like it, more power to them. If they don't, hey, that's okay too. But you got to take risks. And that's kind of where I'm going with these two songs is taking a risk, going, definitely a lot more melodic than this project has done before. And we'll definitely be going more into that, and down the road. But with Anywhere Else, my I guess like kind of referential ethos going into it was like Godflesh meets like Orgy and Linkin Park.
Hmm.
As simple as I can say it. If no one has heard the song before, that let that marinate and then listen to the song basically and see what you listeners can pull from that. Um, but that was sort of my guiding, I guess, guiding light. Having the groove, but definitely leaning much more into melodic, songwriting and harmonies here and there, vocal layers, harmonies, and synths. A lot of layers of stuff. There's definitely a lot of like subtle stuff that you don't necessarily hear, but you can feel it. Like if you took those things out, it wouldn't be the same. So that's definitely the story behind like these two songs. And also like thematically, with the lyrics on Anywhere Else, it's actually inspired by this early 90s sci-fi movie called Fortress, which is like a sci-fi prison planet kind of movie. Really underrated. Most people haven't seen it, at least that
I have
I've
not.
talked to. It's a weird one. It's quirky, early 90s underground kind of movie. Um, but it just something about it just resonated with me, and I wanted to make a song that captured the feeling of that movie. At least I hope it did. If anyone out there has seen it, that's cool. But yeah, that's kind of the story with Anywhere Else. Get to these more melodic moments, almost dancey at times. Like the very
Yeah.
end of it, there's a disco beat in there, so
Oh, I
that's a
heard
bit
it.
of the yeah, a bit of the going for it with like Corn Got the Life, because that whole song is like a disco beat
Yes.
drum wise. So yeah, yeah, I went for it for sure. And then on the other end of things with First Level, um, it is kind of the ballad of the album for sure. It has the absolute softest moments of the entire catalog of this project so far. And I almost made the entire song like that, but I was like, no, we need to make it contrast and kind of have a dynamic punch going into heavier moments. Not super heavy, but louder guitar riffs and some bounce uh weaving through, with like the choruses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's probably the most that I've ever, quote unquote, went for it with like probably any song of mine, I think, in my catalog. Because like everyone that I showed the song to first, um, they were like, "This is Memorrhage," and I was like, "Yep, it's a little different." And they're like, "Dude, this is like feels like a almost like a radio song that could have played, you know, at maybe early 2000s, who knows." But yeah, it was just kind of almost like a challenge to like go for this style to really change things up a bit, throw some curveballs, melodic curveballs.
And that's something you got to do sometimes. Like
Yeah.
you get like nothing worse than just like resting on your laurels and be like, all right, that's it.
That
I'm just gonna
yeah, like
keep churning this stuff out.
playing it safe, you know, it can make sense for some bands.
Yeah.
Like I get that because sometimes there's pressure behind if they're on a label and they're like, nope, you got to churn out this album and this album again and again and again and
Yeah.
again. I understand that, but like, you know, I'm not in that situation. I'm gonna keep pushing, gonna keep, you know, trying new things.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're not ACDC.
No, right? Yeah.
Um, a side tangent again,
Yep.
because you mentioned Godflesh.
Mhm.
So for the longest time, there was one black sheep in the Godflesh catalog that I just never resonated with me. And
Yeah.
this isn't including any of the post reunion albums because I actually don't like any of those.
Oh,
But
okay. Okay.
and I've tried, they just don't connect with me. But Us and Them,
Ah,
it has now I can finally say I can listen to that album and go, I get it.
yeah. Okay.
I finally, because like it took me, I think it was last year when Songs of Love and Hate finally clicked, which now that I listen to it on a regular basis, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Why didn't this click before?
It happens.
This is ideal me.
It's my favorite Godflesh album, and it's a
It's
lot of people's like least favorite for some reason. But yeah,
it's it depends on my mood, but it's either that
yeah.
one or it's that one or Pure. Those
Okay.
are the
Okay.
two. But yeah, but now I've come around to Us and Them, and
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
like, oh yeah, I didn't get it before, and I think one of my problems is I actually don't like the opening song, like the I Me Mine.
Oh, okay.
But now that I'm like, all right, I'm gonna spend more time with the second half of the album,
Hmm.
and Descent was the song that really
I love
grabbed me.
Descent. Yeah,
And I was like, oh
it's probably my favorite one on there. I think
yeah,
probably.
I think that is my favorite song on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was like, oh, this is not what I thought I was gonna get from this.
Yeah.
So
It
I've
goes
been
some places.
yeah, so I've been pulling back the layers on that, and I'm like, oh no, I like this a lot more than I thought I did, and which is funny because the more I get into Godflesh, the
Mhm.
lower Hymns goes down,
Interesting.
which is unfortunate because at one point I considered Hymns my second favorite Godflesh album, but the more I get
Oh,
into
yeah.
the more I get into the other ones, I'm like, eh, it's still good, but I like these other ones more.
Yeah. It's fascinating uh absorbing the Godflesh discography, like especially just over time, kind of like you said, like going back and revisiting some of the other pieces, some of the other albums that maybe you didn't like at all or like as much. And then because it's just such a interesting change across their discography, the peaks and valleys and where some of those albums go. Like you said, they're not things that you might have expected from them.
No,
But I've always like admired that in the long run, like being a fan of them for so many years. It's like, man, I can go back to this album and like, I think this one's my favorite, or I think this one's like my second favorite now. Or, you know, yeah, kind of like what you said. But yeah, it's interesting, and I think that's also why they're like a huge influence on me because I sort of have gone through that too, as a songwriter, where like I'm going through so many different changes year
yeah.
to year, sometimes in the same year, in recent years at least, where it's just it's all a journey, you know.
Yeah, and it felt as he kept going,
Mhm.
he was just like, I'm interested in this now. Let's go do it.
Right. Yeah, like, oh, let's dip
And
toes in this thing. Yeah, some like
and he
UK breakbeat stuff.
and I think that's what my issue is with the reunion stuff I've heard
Hmm.
is because World Lit Only by Fire sounded like it was trying to appease the early metal Godflesh fans.
I
And I
could
was
see
like,
that with
and I
like
was like,
modern production.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I was like, it feels dry. And then
it is dry. It is
and
dry.
then post self felt like it was trying to recapture the experimental era,
Hmm.
but it missed because
I could see that.
I've tried that one over and over again. And I'm like, I get what they're trying to do, but it doesn't grab
It's
me.
not hidden yet. You
No.
know, with post self, it it's funny. I've hit that kind of the same way with you with us and them,
Mm.
where I actually didn't like post self when it came out. And I was excited for it because like hearing about how it was going a little bit more back to the experimental side. And yeah, I didn't like it for a long time. I do like it now, but it took me a lot of revisits to like really get into it. You know, maybe you might, but maybe you might not. But yeah, that was my experience.
It I I will say I enjoy listening to it more than I enjoy listening to a world lit only by fire.
I do too.
Like
Yeah,
I can sit there and listen to it and like not be bothered by it, and
okay.
I think that annoys me to a point where
Right.
I'm like, okay, it went in one ear and out the other. What? But
Okay. I
whereas
could see that.
but you are right. Whereas like it could just take me a bunch of attempts and like
Yeah.
because that's happened so many times. I couldn't tell you how many times I tried to listen to Nail Bomb and it didn't click.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
then one day it clicked.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, no, this is great."
You know, the
Okay.
first time I heard Nail Bomb, I didn't like it. Yeah. And I don't know if it was maybe my second full listen. But yeah, it took a little bit of time to like really fully immerse myself into it because it's like, man, what is going on here? Because like it's clearly, Max Cavalera's like, you know, experiment into this industrial end of things.
Mm.
But it's like, what is it though? I mean, I mean, it's like an industrial groove thing going on, but there's like some cool, like little thrashy-esque punk moments mixed in there. And it was like, okay, I think I get it. Cause like, I like that, but I've never really heard that mixed in with this like industrial groove thing, or at least the way that Nailbomb was doing it. So it took a bit of getting used to.
Yeah, there were a bunch of things working against it at the
Yeah,
time.
okay.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
when I first heard it, it was God, early 2000s probably. And
Yeah.
at that
Same for
point,
me.
I had a preconceived notion in my head of what industrial was.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I
So
did too at that
so the
time.
fact that it was like because I really hadn't truly experienced Godflesh yet, and
Okay.
while they do utilize this, the fact that it was Nail Bomb was like, all right, it's like all just groove industrial oriented. There's
Hmm.
no synths. I really at the time wasn't a big fan of Max's vocals,
Ah.
so all of these I was like, I don't get it. And then and then slowly over time, as I became more of a fan of Soulfly, of Sepultura,
Hmm.
and then gave Nail Bomb another try. And by that point, like I had listened to enough industrial where I was like, oh yeah, there are bands who don't have synthesizers or anything like that, and
Right.
it's
It's
just
like the mechanical,
yeah
noisier end of it, or
yeah
machine sounds of it.
the
Yeah.
dissonant like
The
guitar
dissonant.
riffing,
Hmm.
like that's what they harp on. And
Hmm.
so then after all that, and then I listened to Nail Bomb with fresh ears, I was like,
Oh
oh, I get
yeah.
it now.
And
Okay.
that's cool. There's a beauty in that, like getting something that you originally kind of dismissed or just flew over your head or just didn't like it. It's cool kind of refinding stuff like that.
The one last one I mentioned is for the longest time I hated Funeral Mist, and
Oh man. Okay. I haven't thought of them
I
in years.
I don't know what it was. Like, cause, but I had started getting into black metal, but like there was something about Funeral Mist that I didn't get it because
Yeah.
they were so weird. I was like, just be normal,
Yeah, right.
as
Yeah.
normal as a black metal band could be.
Right.
But there was something. Cause it was Maranatha, I think, was the album,
Mhm.
and I kept trying, and I had a friend who was like, no, it's my favorite black metal album. I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't hear it. And then I think last year or the year before when I was like deep into like I'm listening to black metal like legit now.
A lot.
Like
Yeah.
I'm fully into these bands. It's no longer just flirting with the genre.
Hmm.
I gave it another chance and I was like, oh, they are weird. I like it now though.
Nice.
I can
Yeah.
appreciate it. I can appreciate it on a different level. It's like how I came around to like the industrial black metal bands. I didn't get them at
Oh,
first,
yeah.
but like
It's funny. I loved that stuff in the beginning, and I kind of went away from it. But I've kind of come full circle. Like, this is cool stuff. Like, I love it now. Again.
like I thought it was just funny almost in a weird way
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
because it
There's
was
some
like
like kind of weird cheesiness to it.
grand declaration of war.
Yeah. Yeah.
It in retrospect, it's awesome.
Yeah.
At the time, I was like, "What is this?"
What's going on here? Yeah.
or Dodamsgard or
Oh
like
God, I
any
love them.
or
Yeah.
Aberim, any of those. Where I'm like,
Abram was really pushing it there with like legit like techno parts as well too, like the
yeah,
stuff. It's funny because like for me, I had a chunk of time where an older cousin, she was in the rave scene. She's like, I can't remember, probably 5 or 6 years older than I am. So when I was like 12, 13, she was probably 18, 19-ish, early college years. And she worked for her college radio station as like a DJ for like their like techno and electronic hour. And she'd go to raves. And so like she would show me some of that while I was getting into like black metal and extreme metal. So like Aberim was like a weird, oh, what is going on here? Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome though.
Yeah.
All right, we will get back into Anyo for all those people who are like, talk about the album.
Hey, tangents are fun.
So we'll go back a little bit. As I said, I was a little out of order.
Yeah.
Two other songs that I kind of put together because they kind of were a little heavier, but they kind of went back to that corn groove.
Mhm.
But also still had melody. So it was like a mix of everything that you had done up to this point, which was removal process and dive.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much kind of what, yeah, exactly what you said with these two being smack dab in the middle. I kind of wanted a point where I needed something that came right after anywhere else to be something that was like a synthesized moment of everything that came before, basically, on the album. So it's like a culmination point where it's like, all right, I kind of want to melt the pot more with everything, pretty much everything that's going on in this album. So like, for the listener, by the point that by the time they get to this point of the album, it's like, whoa, okay, this is where we've arrived now, where we've got a lot of different elements, and the more primary corn influence is showing itself again and more often. And then some of the groovier and even like kind of faster moments show themselves on these two songs too, a little bit like kind of with the start of like removal process, almost this like Static X staccato riff thing going on there too. And then there's definitely a curveball by the time you get to the end of removal process, and it, at least from my point of view, it sort of goes into that hymns era Godflesh kind of plotting heavy chords droning on, but not too long, because this is a new metal album. We can't go too long. Well,
No.
or at least I didn't want to. Someone else, if you want to take a stab at long form new metal, you can do it. But yeah,
New drone.
new drone. There you go, new drone. I could, kind of wanted to end removal process on like a slightly different note there to prepare the listener to go into dive, which really, speeds things up a little bit from the previous song, and brings those corn elements for sure, and then acts as like a culminating song of what's gone on this album so far.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said. It was you. You basically did turn that. You turned removal process into the like. You're like, just jumble all this together, and that's what it is so far.
Yep. Yep.
But
an all-star track, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And then not too long after this, we get to In Cero,
Mhm.
which I consider to be, and it's kind of an oxymoron. It's the most melodic of the heavy songs on the album.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
like it's very hard hitting, but the melody just like is like it slides right through that whole track. Like
Yeah.
it's irresistible.
Thank you. Interesting note on this song. Now, while we did talk about how the first two tracks, were intended to kind of play as a continuation of self-titled, In Cero was actually the second song I wrote for this album.
Oh, okay.
But I knew so basically I wrote Downstone first, and then In Cero, and then Infect. And when I had those three like written, I was like, In Cero can't be the second track. So I just kind of like, it was sort of like not pushed aside, but like it was waiting in the wings for me to like finish that song.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's too slow compared to, like, it's too slow to be a track number two. Yeah, in my eyes. Yeah. So I was like, Infect has to be track two. It has to continue after Downstone. But anyway, yeah, In Cero was just like this song that I was sort of like babying over the course of this album process. I was like, man, I don't know where you're gonna go yet, but there's gonna be, it's like you said, it's gonna be the most melodic of definitely the crunchier, heavier songs for sure. So yeah, that was definitely intentional on my part. And I guess like some kind of like influences on this track were so we've mentioned Korn a lot, and I'm going to mention it again, but the like death metal vocals that Jonathan Davis flirts with at times was like on my mind a lot when I was doing the vocals for this song, at least like the beginning parts of the song. So it's like sort of like the quote unquote death metal Korn elements mixed with,
I know
like,
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, like some of the stuff on like Life is Peachy and stuff like that. Yeah, or what was that song they did? Jingle Balls.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I know he brings it back occasionally.
Yeah, a little bit.
Or at least he used to. Because
Yeah.
I know there's moments on what's the album that's kind of good but has terrible production. Take a Look in the Mirror.
Take a Look in the Mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some songs on there where he
He goes into that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, but and even Untouchables, there's a little bit, but it's
a little bit.
But it's so like cleaned up that it
right.
doesn't feel that.
It's not like death metal-y, but it's like it's not clean. Yeah. But yeah, that was sort of like my take, like going that route, taking like more, like almost as if Korn was leaning more into that, like on a full song, and then have these shiny melodic choruses to break that up a bit. And then, by the end of it, it goes full course into, pure melodic sensibilities there, which of course definitely leads perfectly into the next track, which I'll let you talk or ask about that.
So this kind of came out of nowhere for me. So Out of Mind, which easily the heaviest song on the second half of this album. Like there's like first hearing it, I was like, oh, there's a Slipknot influence to this.
Yeah.
Especially with especially with the drum work.
Yeah.
But yeah, Out of Mind is just came out of nowhere because like there had been so much melody throughout, and I was like, oh, he's that just like, no, visceral, go. Tell me what you're feeling when you made this.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Where someone's first listen is they're definitely, I would say, definitely not going to expect it coming after First Level and Cero, especially being back to back heavily melodic songs.
Yeah.
And Out of Mind just kind of just pummels immediately. Now it was the last song that I wrote, and it's kind of disembodied from the writing process of all of the other songs. I wrote it like several months after I wrote everything else, and so it does kind of stand on its own a little bit in terms of being like, whoa, where did this come from? But I wanted one of those songs on here, where it felt like this feels like a kind of different project here a little bit. But that's my nature. I like to throw some interesting curveballs here and there. So that was kind of the definitely uh, the mindset going into Out of Mind. And there's definitely a lot of like twists and turns. As heavy as it gets, it goes into weird little moments here and there. Especially by the end of it, for sure. There's like basically like three different bridges, which is a weird song structure.
Yeah.
Kind of going
but it's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. Almost borrowing from like death metal where it's not really verse chorus. It's more like riff one, riff two, riff three, riff four, riff one again, riff two again, riff five, riff six,
Yeah.
sort of. So it's definitely the most like death metal structured, extreme, end of things. At least on this album. There probably will be more songs like this in the future, just to kind of throw as a curveball yet again.
And now that I'm thinking more on it, I take back the Slipknot thing. It's got more of a Tala vibe.
Okay, yeah, I could see that for sure.
Because because I think there's a lot of times I listen to Tala's first album and I'll think of Slipknot,
right?
But there's it's the crazy rhythms and everything. But yeah, no, I loved Out of Mind. I thought it was great. I'm actually all for it when because there's so many death metal songs I like where there's no chorus.
Yeah, right.
It's just kind of happens.
We're just going pummeling through. As sometimes people say, a riff salad, where it's just like, oh, here's one riff, here's another. Oh, here's a totally different one.
As long as it's interesting, I don't care.
Yeah, right. Got to keep things exciting.
I love hooks, but yeah, no, as long as it's interesting, I'm fine.
Yeah. I feel the same.
And now we're gonna get into what might be my favorite song on the album.
Oh, interesting.
Key Through Flesh, which brings back. You know what? I'm not going to use Korn this time.
Sure.
There's an insane groove to this track. There's a load of hooks, but it's not soft.
Right.
But it's got like the nu metal Machine Head vibe, where it's got that just like really aggressive groove, but like this is like super catchy, but you're also probably going to get punched in the face. That's what I feel with Key Through Flesh. I really like the way this song came out.
Thank you. So this I already knew. I guess. Well, after I wrote this song, I knew that it was going to be the final track, no matter how the album shook out. Because I wasn't. This was not one of the first few songs, but it was like probably one of the middle songs that I wrote in the writing process. But I knew that it needed to be the outro. Just kind of like what you said, where it's a short one. It's like 2:46 in length, so it's like it's heavier. It's a little fast, not super fast, but the pace is there. But it's definitely designed to hook you in. Like it's got hooks, but they're in a much more almost abrasive way. It's just kind of the nature of the song structure of this song, where it kind of has, like you said, like her early nu metal Machine Head vibe and aggression. I kind of thought a little bit of that for sure, and then like calling back Fear Factory again, but also like 90s Napalm Death. There's a little bit of that in there for sure, where it's like, whoa, there's some like groovy, catchy element to Napalm Death now.
Still my favorite era of Napalm Death.
It is mine too, and I know it's controversial, but hey, we like what we like. And yeah, that's a big influence on this song for sure. Kind of my modern reinterpretation of their 90s sound. Catchy, heavy, aggressive, but it has hooks, but not in the way that like traditional nu metal would have hooks. Yeah. So it's like hooks in a heavy way, perhaps.
Which are some of my favorite songs, are just really heavy, catchy tracks.
Yeah. And I guess also there's a cool like little what do you call it? Like story to the song. Well, it's not my story, but it's influenced or rather modeled after Hellraiser. So it's essentially about not a pre-existing character in the Hellraiser universe, but more like one that could be. Just someone who's obsessed with, the going to what was that realm, the Leviathan realm, and going to basically beyond life and to be immersed in pain and pleasure to the max, to the maximum. So this person's like obsessed with the Cenobites and obsessed with the what do you call it, lament configuration.
Yeah.
So the key through flesh is that. So that's why it's fast, heavy, and there's hooks, as there's hooks in Hellraiser. Literally.
Brought it full circle.
Full circle. Yeah.
Pinhead would be so proud. Pinhead did spoken word on the Cradle of Filth album. Get him to test on your stuff.
That would totally make my day. Yeah. One of these days for sure.
Yeah, I can't remember if since the last time we've talked, because I had a history with Hellraiser where for the longest time I'd only seen the first one.
Okay.
And I hated it.
Really? Man.
I was like, because it had been so long, and I finally saw it, and I was like, this is it? This is Hellraiser? I don't like it. It's just gross. The story's stupid. The Cenobites are cool, but I was like, I don't get it. And then because I've had all this time off, I like a lot of the time I was like, well, I'm gonna watch some movies because it's like 95 degrees out. I'm not going outside.
Sure.
So out of boredom one day, I was like, all right, I'm gonna give it a second chance. I'm gonna watch Hellraiser 2. So I watched Hellraiser 2, and I was like, oh, this was way better.
I do love Hellraiser 2. I love both of them, but as like a packaged, almost like one long big movie. But I can see why like Hellraiser 2 grabbed you much more, because it goes more in depth for sure.
I think like if I watched them back to back and like I thought of it as a fluid thing, I could appreciate the first one more. But with that distance, But I think like I was already into the story a little bit more. But then when they showed like the other realm, I was like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah.
I was like, I love this shit.
Because as soon as they show that, like it actually depicts like what you're imagining or wondering from the first film. It's like, oh, this is what it's like. It's crazy.
I was like, this is like visually, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I watched Hellraiser 3. And I was like, this is also great, but this is crazy.
Yes. It's like it's its own thing for sure. I know a lot of people hate on it, but I love the third one. It's fun.
It's like it tries to not take itself super seriously, and I appreciate that.
Exactly.
I've been told to watch the fourth one, but I have not yet.
The fourth one,
is that the space one?
Yeah. Or wait, is it?
One involves space. I know. I saw that in the synopsis.
I'm pretty sure it's the fourth one. And it's funny because I've only seen it once. If that is indeed the fourth one, I've seen this. If it's the space one, I've seen that one once, and I did like it. I will have to revisit it at some point. If I were to like rate it, I don't know, out of say a 5, I would probably give it a 3, with maybe potential to be higher if I watched it more. It's not great, but I would say it's worth at least one watch.
There's so many bad movies I've seen at this point. I'm fine with a 3 out of 5.
Yeah. And I probably am being fairly generous because I think this is the one where a lot of people were like, this is terrible. This is not Hellraiser. This is something else. But I like it. I like it all right. I'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah, and if it goes more into the campy element, I'm fine with that.
It definitely does. Yeah.
I still haven't seen, and I've been told to watch it, and I've seen a lot of the Jason movies, and I really haven't liked a lot of them. But I just watched them because I was like, I want to see what's up.
Yeah.
And honestly, the most fun I had was Jason Takes Manhattan. I was like, this is stupid.
Oh, I love that. It is, yeah,
He
and I love that one.
dude
It's
tries to
fun.
dude boxes him. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
But the one I've been told to watch that I've never seen is Jason X, where he's in space.
Oh man. It's crazy because I actually really love that one, and that's kind of another controversial one where a lot of people hate it. But I think it's just stupid fun, and it's not hiding what it's trying to be. It's Jason in space, and they lean pretty hard into that. I think it's a good one. It's a fun one.
I think I've come around to the fact that I can enjoy those sorts of movies because
Yeah,
I'm one of the only people I know who liked Freddy vs. Jason.
man, I do too. I like
This
it.
is entertaining. They're like, they
Yeah,
ruined the franchise. I'm like, I don't care. I'm entertained.
yeah.
And I
Honestly, that's kind of the bottom line with how I see it. At least like with those franchises for sure. It's like, well, am I entertained? That's all that matters there.
yeah, people don't watch Leprechaun for the plot.
Right.
Um, but back to the Memorrhage stuff because I keep derailing. Um, so this is a slightly broader question that doesn't fully entail to Memorrhage.
Oh yeah.
Will the new metal influence continue to dig its way into your other projects like it has with Gone Mage?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I guess truthfully, uh, maybe, probably, yeah. In I don't know in what degree, but at least subtly somewhere. Yeah, it's kind of just like embedded now. Obviously, Memorage is like the primary one
Yeah.
where it's not hiding that influence and element at all. And then Gone Mage, of course, didn't hide it, but it went a different route that
Yeah.
Memorage is going for sure, and that's purposeful. I want to keep them pretty separate. But like other stuff of mine, it'll probably make its way in there in spots. Yeah.
Confirmed. The next Sallow Mouth album is going to be all Coal Chamber covers. You
Yep.
heard it
Yep.
here.
We'll get to that. Yeah. Yeah.
So what other ways do you want to try and experiment with Memorrhage going forward on the hypothetical third album, which
Mhm.
whenever it comes out, when you're done going back through all your projects
All the
again?
others, right? Yeah. I'm just like going through like I'm flipping a binder or something and like trading cards. Like, oh yeah, this page is my favorite page. Oh, we're gonna go to this page now. We'll go back to this one. Um, in terms of getting into like other dipping toes into other styles or experimenting. um I really haven't thought too deeply about it, but I guess I want to expand upon the dancier like anywhere else moments,
Mm.
for sure, like really make some songs that have synth as a forefront, not
Oh, I get you.
necessarily just as a backing layer. But I want to have some songs where it's like, whoa, like where's the guitar? There's synths here that are maybe taking place of where the guitar was once before.
Hmm.
So yeah, maybe leaning heavier into like synths, electronics for sure. Other than that, I can't really think of anything else I'd want to experiment with, at least right now. But the door is always wide open. Where who knows what the third album or fourth album would be like in terms of branching out. But the door's never closed. Yeah, I'll always be experimenting.
I think the only thing I could think of while listening to the album, and
Mhm.
there are elements of it, but and I think it's just because I've been exploring this subgenre of a subgenre,
Mm.
um, is if there were more like breakbeat and drum and bass elements, like just little bits,
Oh yeah.
like
Okay. Yeah.
a pitch shifter touch or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
but like and maybe even rising up the hip hop elements a little bit, like not fully
Yeah.
not going
Yeah.
full into it, but like
Right.
unless you want to, you
Right.
make a hip hop track on the
Make
I'm
it more apparent.
there's got to be some Texas rappers who will help you.
Yeah. You know what? I do want to lean into that at least for a track. And yeah, like find a dedicated like if they're not from Texas, but so be it. But that would be cool to find kind of a local rapper who has, their own flair and their own style that's something that I couldn't do. So that'd be cool to like bring a completely new element into the fold for at least a track or maybe a part of another track. So yeah, I would say more hip hop elements would be fun. While also having like distorted new guitars intermingled with that too. Maybe not the whole throughout the duration of the whole song, but
Yeah.
coming in there, kind of like Korn's "Kick the PA" song on the Spawn soundtrack.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily hip hop
It has
vocally,
that
but like the beat,
groove,
the
though.
groove. Yeah, yeah. And like there's moments where like there's no guitar and it's just like this beat. It's like, man, that's a pretty cool like hip hop style beat for sure. But yeah, something like that.
You can have your very own Children of the Corn.
There we go. That's the better example. Yeah.
and also female backup singers on all the songs.
Yeah. Hey, maybe not all the songs, but like
Yep.
I think that'd be a cool texture to have, for sure. Actually, well, we may see some of it on the third album. I don't know if I'm shooting for that to be next year, but not guaranteed. We'll see. Yeah.
Now take your time with it.
Yeah, we'll take plenty of time with it for sure.
Thoughts on we touched on this earlier, so
Oh, yeah.
I'm bringing it back up.
Yep.
Thoughts on a ballad, a proper one?
An actual ballad. Man, it's
Or is that
maybe
somewhere
because I'll say like throughout my discography, it's not necessarily in my nature, but I'm not opposed. Well, okay, while I say it's not in my nature, I guess I should say it would be a challenge because like my brain just wants to like diverge, add some heavy moments. But maybe I'll dip my toes into a purely designated ballad track. At some point,
completely stripped down and acoustic.
stripped down. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Actually, you know what? Going that route would be pretty fun. That would be a fun challenge.
You can even have it as like a hidden track.
Yeah, that's true.
But it'd be like because you were talking about how you were thought maybe these weren't as soft as I was gonna go with anywhere else at first level.
Yeah.
And you said you like a challenge.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, first level originally was gonna be like that. And that was the challenging part. I was like, I want to add some, heavy guitars back into this. But yeah, we'll have to see. I think it would be cool to make a pure ballad at some point for sure.
And the last thing I want to touch on, because it's something you've kind of talked about on Twitter, but I can't actually remember if it's a Memorrhage thing or if it's just a solo thing.
Okay.
You were working on a cover of Edge Crusher. Is that a Memorrhage thing or is it just you?
Yes, a Memorrhage cover for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's definitely that. I can't divulge like details yet on that. Just the fact that is a full-fledged cover that's coming out under the Memorrhage name. And I'm doing the vocals too on it and doing I'm trying to channel that Burton style for sure. As from start to finish on that song. It's going to be pretty fun. Whenever it comes out, I don't know when exactly, but it'll be a cool track to have under the Memorrhage name.
Yeah, it's a super fitting one for like if you're gonna make a Fear Factory cover in a new metal industrial metal band,
right?
Edge Crusher's pretty
good. Yeah.
Edge Crusher or like Linchpin.
Linchpin. I love Linchpin too. Yeah, those were two candidate, or probably the two biggest candidates. Obviously, Edge Crusher is like probably maybe still their most popular song, at least most popular among like new metal fans.
Yeah,
Well, that and Linchpin, I guess. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. No, both of those were the most popular amongst like the actual metal fans.
yeah.
Like probably the most popular is the Cars cover,
No, that's true. Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, but that's that's mostly people outside
The realm.
yeah,
Yeah.
the realm. Um, but yeah, I still remember the first time I heard Fear Factory, and it wasn't Edge Crusher, it wasn't Linchpin, it wasn't Cars. The first Fear
What was it?
Factory
Zero
song,
Signal?
no,
Oh, okay.
the first Fear Factory I was ever exposed to was seeing the video for Resurrection.
Oh man, interesting.
And
Okay.
so I didn't know what Fear Factory was, and
Yeah.
I saw it, and I had no idea how to take it. I was like, what is this guy's problem? Why is he singing like this? Stop it.
I could see that, like
So
going
yeah,
into it blind.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I didn't. I at the time I can't think of another band who I had heard
Yeah.
that sounded like it, and it
And
just
to this day, there really isn't someone who had at least like his clean singing.
yeah.
There really isn't anyone who sounds like him. Yeah.
No, yeah, like especially there's obviously imitators,
True.
but
True.
but yeah, no, he stood out. And like the thing is, then time went on and I no longer hated Resurrection, but then I started seeing Replica, I started hearing Edge Crusher, I started seeing Linchpin, and then I got Digimortal and Obsolete, and then the rest is
Nice.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that first impression, I don't know what this is. What is this? The weird Jesus-y robot stuff going on in the video too. I was like,
I could see that. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Um,
My first brush with them was actually my first CD, the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. So that's why I asked the because they had
oh yeah,
Zero Signal on there.
yeah.
And when I first heard it and had this in my possession, it was definitely, it kind of went a little over my head at first, because I at that point hadn't heard anything like that fast or chunky or mechanical sounding riff wise and stuff like that. But I did like it. I just didn't fully grasp it or appreciate it at the time. That kind of came down later when buying Digimortal and Obsolete. Pretty much I bought those I think at the same time. And I was like, oh man, I didn't know how good I had it with the Mortal Kombat soundtrack.
The Mortal Kombat soundtrack is great.
Yeah. Like especially in retrospect, like just man, how the heck did they get some of those songs on there on that movie? Like it's pretty cool.
I'm still mad about that soundtrack though,
Oh
because
yeah.
one of my favorite bands ever has 4 songs in the movie. 0 on the soundtrack.
On this, yeah, man.
I was like, you son, because I remember it had been years. Like I had the soundtrack and I'd heard
Yeah.
it plenty of times,
Mhm.
but it had been years since I'd watched the movie.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm watching the movie, and I'm like, that's weird. Stabbing Westward's playing.
Right, right.
That's weird. A second Stabbing Westward song's playing. A third. The closing credits are a 4th one, and I was like, wait. And I looked at the soundtrack and I was like, why aren't they on here?
Right. That is weird.
It's like, how do you have 4 songs
That's
from the
a
first
pretty
album on there?
glaring omission. Like, how could they do that?
I
Like,
don't know.
that is, yeah, definitely a weird choice there. Because like they obviously they fit great in the movie, so like they
I'm
would
pretty
fit
sure
perfectly on the CD.
Gravity Kills was on the soundtrack,
Gravity, yeah, yeah.
and they're like, not as good Stabbing Westward.
And I've kind of always thought them as like basically, yeah, like kind of a Stabbing Westward light.
Yeah, like
mostly they have some bangers, but yeah,
I do like Gravity Kills, but
yeah, I like them.
Stabbing Westward more.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that annoys me to this day. But Mortal Kombat soundtrack was also the first time I ever heard Napalm Death.
Same, yeah, and it flew over my head initially,
100%.
but yeah, grew to love it later, but yeah,
Yeah. The thing is, what really got me to like keep trying to give it another chance was I really liked the beginning before he did vocals. Like,
okay,
I just liked the guitar thing.
right.
That sounds awesome. And then he goes, ah, and I'm like, I had a friend who, because they played that song in the movie, thought it was Goro doing the vocals.
Oh man,
When they were a
that's so
kid.
funny. Yeah,
I was like, that is awesome, and I
You
never
know, I
thought
could
about that.
see that, like the impression, like being a kid watching that movie and then like having that soundtrack or hearing that soundtrack. Yeah, you might think like, what? How did they get Goro on this song?
Yeah, and that also has a, if I remember correctly, it also has a Typo Negative song on it. I think it's a remix, but I think they have a Typo Negative song on there.
That yeah, okay, yeah.
Empire.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
weird
sure.
soundtrack. Good
It is a weird
soundtrack.
one.
Weird
Yeah.
soundtrack. Yeah, I'm supposed to go on the New Breed podcast. They've been trying to do this forever, and I've been
Oh,
on there a bunch of times. But they
yeah.
they did the normal Mortal Kombat soundtrack, but Jay is adamant that he wants to talk about the Mortal Kombat More Combat soundtrack,
Dude.
which was a
Yes.
companion one. And
Right.
so we're finally locked in for mid-September, I think, to talk about it.
Nice.
I'm ready. I'm gonna
That'll be a fun
I'm
one to hear.
talk
Yeah.
about Sister Machine Gun, which nobody cares
Yeah.
about. Um, I'll I'll ride or die with them. It's fine. But yeah, God, such a, and I think there's a weird God Lives Underwater B side on
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That was the first time
it's
I ever heard them.
yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of their songs.
No.
I was
Yeah.
like I was like, oh, okay, cool, because I heard it like after I had one of their albums. I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, it
What is
works,
this?
but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a little weird.
Right.
But
Coming from them. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm excited for that.
That'll be a fun one.
So what is the next? If you have any knowledge at all, what is the next project that you're planning to release something under, or have you not thought that far ahead yet?
Kind of yes and no. So I guess I'll like kind of expand upon that. So likely it would be the next Salamoth
Mm-hmm.
album, which would be a return of the project. I'm the only reason why I say I'm not sure yet is because if I know how long it's going to take, and I may have to at some point take a break from it and do something else,
Like a
whatever
palette
that might
cleanser?
be. Yeah,
Okay.
just a little break, but we'll see. um I plan on that being the next like release, for sure. Well, I guess technically it might be the Edge Crusher cover,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of like a body of work, like an album,
Yeah.
likely Salamoth. um Definitely next year. Don't know when, but yeah, probably that. After that could be the third Memorrhage, could be I've kind of alluded to this, just small hints. Could be a traditional heavy metal album, which would have to be a new project. It would not fit under Gone Mage, Memorrhage, obviously. Salma, it wouldn't fit under anything else. So that's an idea. I have no idea exactly what it will sound like, but traditional heavy metal. I've always wanted to make a record of that vein. I would have to find a dedicated like vocalist with those kinds of chops. I definitely can't do those kinds of chops. Probably,
Me
I'll
neither.
probably do some like backing vocals for sure.
Yeah.
But like I want to find someone who really can lock that vibe in and make it shine. No clue when that would be, but that's something in the pipeline. I haven't started anything for it, just ideas.
That sounds cool.
Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
that
see.
yeah, that sounds like something you should like really go and get a whole litany of guests for.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
make this my my heavy metal opus.
Yeah, the heavy metal open, and like that would probably be the most what's the word, like least experimental thing. Like I want it to feel like, oh, this is like this is a traditional metal album.
Yeah.
This no, this is not. It's not a progressive heavy metal. It's not a deathy heavy. It's heavy metal. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, no, you're like, nope, just bare bones,
Bare bones. Yeah.
metal, balls
Yep.
to the wall,
My
go.
take on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see when that comes. Could be late next year. Could be the year after, because I know that type of thing would probably take a while, especially kind of like what you said, kind of wrangle in
Yeah.
some guests who really have the chops for that kind of material and style to make it really shine.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So are there plans currently for a follow up to Spell Piercings, or
Ooh.
is Gone Mage like because I know you have other bands listed as projects, but I
Mhm.
don't know if I've ever actually heard anything from them. Are
Okay,
those
yeah.
kind of dormant now, or
I would say mostly. Well, okay. Known demise. There will definitely be a follow up for that. I don't know when. Sometime. That one will take a little while to do because I do all the I'm doing all the music for that project, and then the vocalist of Hitbox, he's the vocalist, or
oh,
he
okay,
was the vocalist on the first Known Demise album, and plan to have him for whatever comes next for that. So I wouldn't say dormant for that one, but pretty much everything else, yeah. In terms of spell piercings or a follow up to that, I definitely want to do one, but I may have to take a bit of a breather of away from that to focus on like the Salamoth thing for sure. But I definitely want to do a follow up for spell piercings. Yeah, at some point.
yeah, they feel like very different beasts, so I can understand
Yeah,
that you can't.
keep my headspace
Yeah,
in one thing primarily. I mean, like kind of like I said, I might take a break from the Salamoth process, maybe start doing the foundation of like the heavy metal thing and the next Memorrhage, like just the building blocks. But I would say Salamoth, the next album for that would be kind of my immersion for the next year.
sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I also imagine that when you're working on like outside of Salamoth, when you're
Hmm.
say you're constructing the heavy metal project, you
Hmm.
might come across things where you're like, I really like this, but it's not going to fit here. So maybe I'll shove
Yeah.
that to Memorrhage. You're like,
Right.
I'm not vibing with. Maybe this will get shoved to Gone Mage or
Right.
something like that. Because
Yeah.
that's usually how those things work when you have
That's funny. That
that many
is how that
people.
works. Yeah. And also, I definitely still intend to work on the vocal contributions on your thing for sure.
Excellent.
So yeah, that's also in the pipeline as well. I would I would say probably before the end of the year, maybe. I'm sure I'll be able to get to it pretty soon.
Hell yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have not alluded to anyone about
Oh,
that.
okay, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't
No,
want
I
to
don't.
go.
I joke
I
there.
didn't want to peel the curtain too far,
That's
but
fine.
just a little bit there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'll. I'm excited for that to come out. Yeah, I was telling Santiago, like he's the one who did the guitar stuff on it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
I did it deliberately, where I asked you two to work with me on it
Nice.
because I have a really bad history over the last several years outside of the Backwards Funeral, which also has kind of died out.
Mhm.
Um, I have a really hard time finishing songs,
Okay.
so I deliberately told both of you, "Hey, I'm going to work on this thing. Can you help me?" And
Yeah.
to see if you would say yes, and then I was like, "Well, I guess I got to do it now." So
Hey. Okay. Yeah.
so I was forcing my own hand. I was like, I'm going to force myself to be lazy. Otherwise, I'm going to look like an asshole. So
No,
so
that's good. Sometimes you just got to ask the question and then reframe it from there, whatever the answer is. Yeah.
yeah. And like right back at you. If you need help with any of these things, like I
Yeah.
don't care what it is, just
Yeah.
ask. I'll help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll always, me. Yeah, always glad to have guest contributions in whatever fashion they might be across all the stuff that I do.
I'm very okay at most instruments I put my hands on. That's that's what you're gonna get.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good with me.
But all right, thank you everyone for watching Toxcast. Thank you for coming on, Garry.
Absolutely.
I I hope the Memorrhage album keeps selling out and you're continuously forced to make new CDs because they're clamoring for it.
Yeah.
Um, or just, but the album's on Bandcamp. Go buy it on
True. Yeah.
Bandcamp.
If you guys aren't CD diehards or tape fans or what have you, let's listen to it digitally. That I mean that's
Yeah,
kind of where things are nowadays, but it's out there. Check it out, and thank you to everyone who has checked it out or is about to check it out. Hope you enjoy the ride, and yeah, and thank you for having me on here again.
not a problem. Always a pleasure. But all right, until next time, see you guys later.